All right. This is Child Development 87, and I don't know what week it is. Is it 13? It's chapter 13. So it might be week 12. All right, you guys. Whoops, I shouldn't do that. Okay, so tonight we're talking about problem solving, and as I was mentioning before, this is when it really gets good. This is when we're seeing all the examples of problem solving, and they haven't called in the specialists yet, and so we're still on our own teaching children how to do this. And some of you might have a coach who can help you, or colleagues who have been doing this for a long time. But this is where it was really, we really have to do this on purpose now. And so I gave you guys a whole bunch of videos to help with that. So there's lots and lots of videos this week. And I also put in some extra stuff in here. I put in like another way to look at the brain and how children manage and regulate their emotions. And so they're talking about the upstairs brain and the downstairs brain and the barking dog. And so when they flip their leg, that's when the dog is barking. And so you want to quiet the barking dog and be a wise owl instead of a barking dog. And so I thought that was a really good example. And so I gave that to you guys. And a lot of this is from the book. And then I have the videos and the scripted stories to go with the videos. So there's somebody reading these scripted stories to give you an idea of how to do it and how to introduce it. And I've got the steps for resolving conflicts. This is the San Francisco one. And the way that works is, let me turn this off for a minute. No, that's here. So what they do is they hold it up, and it's a two-sided piece of paper, and so you hold up so that the kids see those 3 pages, and then on the back are the words that you read that talk the child through the problem solving. And so in the face-to-face training in San Francisco, they give you like an hour to practice this, and then you're on your own. And so it's really hard to catch it in just an hour, in my opinion. I still don't have it, and I've been coaching on this for years and years. And so, anyway, I gave you a lot of examples, a lot of different teachers doing the same thing, so you guys could see how you could do it, or find your own way, the way that's best for you and how you do it. So, anyway, that is the San Francisco way, how they hold it up. And then I've got the problems. This is new. This purple one is brand new. And I'm not sure they even talk about it in the San Francisco one, but it's there for you. You've got a video of somebody reading it, and then the scripted story to go with it. This is the one for home. So whenever it's got the 5 languages, that's the one that goes home to the parents. And then I've got a teacher talking about it here. I've got another teacher introducing two at a time. And so this first one, she introduces a couple of them, and then the second one, she introduces a couple more. I think these teachers made these during the pandemic when they were when they were teaching through, teaching online with their preschoolers. I've got another one here. I think this is a preschool teacher who happens to be a parent who did this during the pandemic, and so she's talking about the solution kit. And so she made a little suitcase. Some schools put it on rings. Some schools make a suitcase out of the file folder. Some schools put it in a real suitcase and they leave it on the shelf. And so the children go get the suitcase off the shelf and they open it up and they flip through the cards. And so it really depends on what you want to do as teacher. And these are the cards for the classroom. And so they only come in English and Spanish, but the home edition comes in all 5 languages. Here's your self evaluation checklist. And this one, oh, oh, it doesn't want to work very well. I'm going to have to work on that. I set up something wrong. But what it is it's kind of like an inventory of practice, but it just helps you like look back on what you're doing and find your blind spots. So you set the environment. Do you use explicit instructions? Do you use real life situations to teach and reflect? Do you support children in the use of problem solving? Do you comment positively? And then systematic prompting, teach it in the context. So it's all here for you. Okay. And then another video. This one's got puppets. In San Francisco, they talk really quickly about puppets. So it is a San Francisco thing, but I've never seen it in real life in San Francisco. But there's a video for you in case you guys want to try it. And I put a list. This is kind of, I wish I would have told you guys about this list earlier in the class, but I found a list of children's books that are good to use when you're talking about feelings and solving problems and social emotional things. And so these are books. And they're probably, half of them are probably at your school already. And then here's another real life situation. This one, it's really good, but it's also has some issues with it because since this teacher hands out stickers, and so remember, we're using we're trying to build the intrinsic motivators for children. And so in San Francisco County, they don't use stickers as rewards. They use stickers for other things like playing or developing fine motor skills, but not as a reward system. And so just keep that in mind when you're watching this very good video about problem solving and how it becomes this whole community experience. And here's another one, and lots and lots of examples of adults helping facilitating problem solving with children. Super Friends are really big in San Francisco. So here's your scripted story in your 5 languages. I think this is what most teachers lead with in San Francisco. They lead with a super friend over the problem solving, which both of them need to happen. But I guess the super friend is just easier to talk about. And so for problem solving, teachers usually say, well, what would a super friend do? And you go, think, think, think. And so a lot of little kids know how to go, think, think, think. And then they come up with really strange, wild solutions. And so several of you, and it's kind of exciting when I was reading the homework from last week. Several of you said, I wish I knew how I could talk to the parents about this, about problem solving. So here it is for you. It's a little note you could send home with a solution kit designed for families. It's written in the 5 languages, and there's a video to go with it right there. And what do I have here? Did I do the same thing twice? Okay. So here's the introduction, and here's the actual kit. So there's two things. There's a note home, and then the actual. This is like 5 pages of cards. So both of these have more than one page in them. And then this one is one gigantic cards. These are full size cards in English and Spanish. And in case you want to make a book or something, I guess there's more memory or something. I don't know. But they're beautiful, brand new pictures. So nice. And then this is from a couple weeks ago, but I put it back in there again. And it's the inventory of practice for tier 3. All right. So do you guys have any questions? I went through that pretty fast. And I will write, I'm going to try to write in some more stories of my experience as a coach to help you guys with that. Um, what kind of stories do you think you'd want me to put in there? Okay, I'm going to have to think hard about that. A child and a teacher. because usually the power structures, the adults win, and then everybody loses, right? Because then the kid's throwing a fit, and everyone's day is out of whack, right? Because it's hard to move forward. I guess that's your point, right? It's hard to move forward when someone's throwing a huge fit like that, and the teacher's just saying, "Oh," and yeah, that happens a lot. Mm-hmm. Right. So you're talking about like an inquiry, they would call that an inquiry stance, or maybe they might call it a thinking lens, is sometimes what they call it. And it takes a lot longer. You're right. All of this takes forever. And some people complain about that, like, well, this is just taking forever. But if you think about it, you're going to take just as much time with someone throwing a fit. And so you might as well spend a lot of time helping them solve a problem instead of helping them work through their fit or their challenging behavior or that extra parent meeting you have to have because somebody hurt somebody else, right? And so let me think about that. So adults and children. Um, so you always want to be. They say something, and you always want to clarify. Oh, you mean this? And they're like, yeah, yeah. I want to eat my breakfast sitting on top of the bookcase. Oh, how come you want to sit on top of the bookcase? And so you want to like talk them through it and figure out really why they want to sit on the bookcase. Is it because they want to be taller? Is it because they just want a new experience? Like, why do they want to eat on top? So you always want to find out the function, and we're going to get to that in tier 4. And we want to find out the function of the challenging behavior because we can't stop it or reduce it if we don't know why they're doing it. And so if you always want to ask why, it may be obvious to you, and then the child might say something completely different. So you always want to ask if they're able to, if they're old enough to tell you, you want to ask. And especially children who are like 2.5, when they're just kind of figuring things out, but they really don't know what they're talking about yet, they'll say, "You look really anxious." And they'll say, "No, I'm mad and I'm scared." Because they don't know what anxious means yet, right? And so there's kind of, you always want to ask, as they get older, you want to include them in as your because we're always describing what we see, right? We're helping them learn those facial cues and emotional cues, and to read faces. So you describe what you're seeing them do, and then give it a name, right? Oh, I see your eyebrows going down. You're mad. Ooh, you look mad. When they're 1 or 2, you say, "Oh, you look mad." But when they're like 2 or 3, you say, "Oh, you look mad. Are you mad?" And so you invite them into that back and forth that you're talking about, especially when they start getting like that. And because when they turn 2 developmentally, we know that they start separating and becoming their own person instead of an extension of their parent. And that's why you get all those no's, no, no, because they're separating. It's not because they hate you and they think, "Ooh, what am I going to do today?" Um, so yeah, I guess that's the main one. Happens a lot. But I guess the more you talk to them like a regular person, and a lot of you have been writing about that in your homework, and you talk about them, call them little humans, and that's a great way to look at it. Think of them as little humans, and the more you treat them like little humans who might just be new to everything, you're not going to have those disagreements, right? Because you're like a community, and so if someone wants something different, then the community's going to help them, right? And that's kind of the equity part, right? We would want to talk. I went to this coaching training thing today, and they were talking about equity. What does that look like in the classroom? And so we're giving people what they need. It's not the same for everybody, and so maybe the group decides they want to do something special for one of the people in the classroom, right? So it's going to be different for different children, and so we give them what they need. Everyone gets what they need. And so that's how it's a real exercise in flexibility for the grown-ups because maybe you have to take a break at a time that isn't good for you. I remember I took my lunch at 11 o'clock. I had an 11 o'clock lunch so that the primary caregivers could be with the children during their lunch at 12. And so it's really hard to eat lunch at 11 o'clock. But, and so what we did was no one took a break between 12 and 1:30 because that was when we all hands on deck for the best experience for the children. So just keep that in mind. Sometimes what's best for the children is going to be really inconvenient for the adults. And so there's a balance. And just like you want to be flexible maybe in breakfast time because you have homeless children who come in late and they took an hour and a half to get there and they're starving, but we already put breakfast away because you have to put breakfast away at 8:30 because you have to start the dishes so they'll be clean for lunch at 12. There's like all these other things in place that make it harder to meet the needs of the children that you have. And so then you think about, well, what can we do instead, right? And so in that instance, they fed the child outside the classroom with, like, the secretary, the receptionist sat with the child while they ate their breakfast. So it didn't disrupt the class. The dishes still got in the dishwasher in time, and everyone got their needs met. And so you just have to be really creative in how you solve problems that you find. And sometimes, especially when you invite the children to help you solve those problems, their solution is often a lot easier. It won't make sense and it won't be logical, but a lot of times it's easier. So what do you guys think? Did you guys read this part yet? Read this part, this section in the book? I was thinking maybe some of you skipped to this section because this, like I said, is the good part. Yes, no. Okay, well, I'm going to change the subject then. So, did you guys see that I published the final, but it's not open yet? So, if you want to know what the questions are, if you click on it, it'll show you the rubric. And if you look at the question numbers, those are the questions on the final. And so the first half is for tier 4, the top tier, or the red tier or the orange tier, or whatever. And then the second half is the whole pyramid. And it's a different video and it's got the same thing with timestamps. And you pick what timestamp you want to talk about and tell me what you learned from the class that speaks to that timestamp. So if you did okay with the midterm, you'll do okay with the final. It's just different topics that we're looking for in the video because it's higher up on the pyramid. You guys have any questions about that? No, there's just a final. Yeah, one midterm and one final. And what I did was I made one of the end of the module things a midterm, I think. Let me make sure. November 19th. That's an assignment. That's an assignment for that week. And then the same time is the end of module assignment, which is like it looks like the midterm. It's the video again. So I stopped having you guys hand in the handouts, and so I'm trying to change it up. And so you might think it feels like a midterm, but it's worth less points. I don't know why it says 100 points. It shouldn't be 100 points. So I'm glad you said that because that's a mistake. Because I did it for whatever an end of module thing should be. Let me see. No, that's not right. It's not supposed to be that many points. So I'm glad you told me. So I'll go back and fix that. It's supposed to be the same amount as the other end of module things, 25 points. It could be 25 points. I can see how you thought that was a midterm. But I don't know. Maybe you guys want 100 points. There's a lot of you who have more than 100%. And so, yeah, I don't think another midterm would stress anybody out, but I will fix that. It's not supposed to be half the class's points. Then I need to, oh boy, I'm going to have to go back and make sure I put in all the right links and everything. Clearly, I need a nap. Boy, I got to check it all now. I'm concerned. Yeah, I got to work on that. Is there anything else that doesn't look right? No. The thing I went to today, they talked a lot about making sure all the voices are heard. So if you talk a lot, you don't talk so much. And if you don't talk very much, you make the effort to talk more and contribute more. So what happens a lot in classrooms is the assistants don't get very much airtime. The head teachers talk a lot and control the conversation. And so when we're coaching, we work hard to make sure that the people who don't talk very much do contribute so that whatever we're working on or learning how to do, that it's going to work for everybody on the team. And that happens a lot also because of staffing. You guys are understaffed every day. So, did you guys go all work in a center today? Were there enough people? Did everybody come to work today? No? Right. And so what happens is the coach shows up, right? And there's not enough coverage for the whole team to meet with the coach. And so then you end up meeting with the head teacher during her lunch break, right? Which, I mean, it's better than nothing, but it's not great for that teacher because she doesn't get a lunch break. And so I know it's hard. I know it's hard for you guys because of the staffing issues. But I tell you, I'm gonna make you a promise. If you guys get your team or your classroom or whoever to work with you on this teaching pyramid stuff, people are less likely to call in sick because they're not so burnt. You look forward to coming to school every day because the children aren't so out of control. They're still little kids, but they're a joy to be around. They're the little kids who are joy. And so, this teaching pyramid stuff, this social skills stuff really improves the quality of life for you as teachers. And so, keep that in mind. Um, and then people are less likely to call in sick or get hurt or quit. And so what happens is you have people quitting at the end of their round. If you're doing the continuity of care, they quit at the end of their cycle. Before they start a new cycle is when they quit. So when their kids graduate is when they leave. And so it's more smooth when people come and go. And it's not so bad for the children. But if they're a mess every day, then teachers quit all the time. Sometimes they get fired. So the teaching pyramid part can really help a lot. What about you guys? I know some of you don't work in teaching pyramid centers and some of you do. So tell me how it's going. Do you have people say, "Oh, what are you doing? Stop it. It's taking forever." Or do they go, "Wow, you did it. You got him to do it." What's it like for you guys? Yes. 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 Well, but yeah. But what happens is the good worker bees get promoted to administration and they haven't had any training on how to manage people because they're good worker bees. And so they show up every day and they work really hard, but they don't know how to, um, I don't know, encourage or manage people or keep them wanting to come to work or work together and stuff like that. And so that's when they say, "Oh, just help them out. Just show them where everything is." And they didn't really get the orientation they need to be good teachers. And they get hired with no units. Uh, So they can't be left alone and you have to you're starting from scratch for what they need to do as far as an early childhood environment. So yeah, yeah, yeah. So something to help with that um is think about all the things you wish you knew on the first day of work and write it all down. And so we used to have this handout that we would give to every substitute. Here's what you need to know for our school. And it would say things like don't draw for the children, just comment on what they're drawing. Use PDAs, like all that stuff was on a list. And it helps a lot. Now sometimes I don't read it, but it's like a good if someone really wants to try hard, they'll sit down and read it. And just, little things like you don't have to make them sit down because new people they want to do a good job and so they'll make children do things like sit somewhere or draw something or do whatever it is in a way that because we're working really hard on that constructivist theory, right? Where the children are learning to create meaning for themselves and solve their own problems. And so, but in a lot of other cultures, the adults show them how to do it and then the children have to follow. And we can agree or not agree with that cultural mindset, but to have good outcomes for children in this dominant culture, they need to be constructivists. Just say that. Yeah, the hierarchy. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Like something that a lot of teachers don't notice is they'll tie shoes. They'll tie children's shoes instead of like you always know if it's a self-help school if the children have the shoes on the wrong feet. And I'll say, "Oh, do your feet hurt?" And they go, "No." And they say, "Oh, okay." And then I just keep it moving because we're if it's not a problem, then it's not a problem, and that's a hard thing for an adult to do, right? Just to let it go. and just watch those children be on backward. Watch those shoes be backwards. Right, right. That's right. So, a lot of times their shoes are too big anyway, and so there's plenty of room to wear them backwards. And just there's so many other things to be worried about. Um, just worry about the stuff at the top of the pile, right? So, um, yeah, that's especially this problem solving stuff. It's not going to make sense. It's not going to be logical. It's not going to be even. It's not going to be equal. Whatever they decide, and it's going to drive you crazy, and you just have to go with it. And if it doesn't work, and you can say, hey, you know what? I noticed that this person's really having a hard time, and this person isn't. What can we do? How can we solve this problem? And so you can bring it up and renegotiate. Well, so let's say the children decide something together, and it's just not working for all of you. Right. So you can renegotiate. You can say, we decided this, but this is happening now. What can we do? And you could just start over. Yeah. And that's where it's getting complicated because now I'm noticing difference in people, and they're like categorizing people and their relationship to those people, and they're starting to prioritize their peer relationships over adult relationships. And so that's when you get all this stuff like you're not invited to my birthday party even though they had their birthday last week, like they're planning their next one already, all that's like preschool drama is the 4-year olds. And you go, oh, yeah, I guess she's not going. What can we do instead? And you just move on. Because it's not about, oh, we're all friends. We all have to be nice to each other. Don't go there. Don't go there. Because um, just say, oh, maybe next time. You're not going to my birthday party. Oh, yeah, maybe she can go to the next one or the whatever. Like just keep it moving when they start doing that because there's something else. It's not about the birthday party, right? It's about the conflict. And so you want to address the conflict and help them walk through the 6 steps and help them solve the conflict. And that'll help. Well, yeah. Yeah. Well, boys versus girls. And so again, they're noticing difference, right? And they know from the grown-ups that there's a big deal. There's a big deal between girls and boys, right? A lot of drama, a lot of energy around boys versus girls. There's something going on there. They don't quite understand it yet. And and so I don't I guess the easiest what how do I want to say this? You want to give them other things to focus on. So what's that telling me about your environment is that there's something in your environment that encourages them to compete instead of cooperate. And so I don't know if you want to introduce more cooperative play games to have. Okay. Because it sounds like like I said, there's a competition mindset going on, and that's why there's us against them. We're better than you, and they don't understand it yet. They're still too young developmentally to have a good experience. If you're gonna, they're too young to be competing. Basically, that's really for 8-year-olds. And so if you're playing games where there's one winner, they're too young for that. It's gonna go bad. You're gonna have challenging behaviors, and that's a developmental thing. There's nothing you can do to make that better. With all of your teaching pyramid, everything, you're still gonna have problems because they just don't have the brain development to be okay not being the winner every time. So don't do it. just don't do it. And I know people get upset about that because there's one game they love to play, but if there's one winner, they're too young. They're too young for that game. So you want to play games where you have to cooperate to win. That's why they have tire swings instead of single swings, is because you can't swing unless you cooperate with somebody. There's a point to it all, and I know teachers hate those tire swings because they're so heavy and dangerous. But you want to know why they're dangerous? It's because people aren't cooperating with each other, right? They run up and try to get on and they get hit with it, right? Because they're not cooperating. Oh no. Yeah. You know, my fa- my favorite swing is the kind that looks like those dishes, like the kind you go down snow. That's the best kind. And a lot of times they're good for a wheelchair. I think they're really designed for wheelchairs to get on. But they look like dishes, but they're so great because really little kids can get on there, and it's really hard to push it too high to get hurt with it. And so I love them. I love them. And you can put little babies on them even, and they don't fall off. They're great. Because those sit up kind are developmentally not good for babies. Little babies should not be sitting up like that until they can hold their head up. And so, usually, if they're under 6 months, they should not be sitting up. Yeah, I think, yeah, those are too hard. The kind I've seen is where teachers make up games where everybody has to get the blocks on the boat or something. And, you put the blocks in the play yard. And here's our boat. Oh no, we got to save the boat. Get the blocks on. Oh look, your team green. I don't know. Like, so you're saving someone, you're helping someone, and that's how you win. And they like, oh, we all won. We got the blocks on the boat. That's what you say. We did it. Yeah, most Reggio places have boats. Yeah. So or you can or you can call the play structure in the yard the boat. You know, all that fantasy play is working on their conceptual thought, and so it's always going to help you in the long run. If you're working that part of their brain, that's the part where the logic and the planning. And so if they plan ahead for those bad uh, things or those challenging behaviors, sometimes they don't do them because they planned ahead. So if you're working on developing the frontal lobe, you're working on challenging behaviors. All that fantasy play will help you. And if they, especially at a Reggio school, if they want to walk around in some weird outfit, let them walk around in the weird outfit. I know some schools don't want them to take it in the bathroom. I can understand that. Oh yeah, yeah. That's good. That's good because all of that is helping them. Like I said, with that frontal lobe development stuff. That's good. Yeah, I have to say I didn't know that was allowed until one of my friends, her son wore a Robin Hood outfit all day, every day. I go, wow, I didn't know that was allowed. And so then I had my own kids, and so my son wore his firefighter outfit every day, all day. And I would have to hide his boots, the firefighter boots, until we could get the next size up. He
Oh
wore
wow.
he wore it like for 2 years every day, like 2 to 4, I think. No, I take that back because he was maybe 1 to 3, and so we had a couple sets of boots in there. And then when we got to preschool, his sister got a uniform because she went to kindergarten where they had uniforms. So he'd say, "I want a uniform," and so I went and I got him 3 T-shirts and 3 pairs of sweats that were exactly the same, and he wore those to preschool every day. And then when he graduated, he said he wanted a button-up shirt for graduation because he was wearing his T-shirts every day, the same 3 T-shirts. And so, yeah, what does it hurt anybody, right? If they wear the same thing every day, who cares? And, and he turned
There's
out to
some
be an
parents that are not
I
on that
know,
same train,
I
so
know, but he turned out to be an artist. He's like a real live artist. He went to art school, got a glass blowing degree. Yeah, he's a sculptor, like a real artist. And so, just think about that. Those are little future future humans that you're helping develop. And you
okay.
never know. You never know what they'll turn out to be. I wish trying to think if I have anything easy that he made me. No, I don't have anything here.
Oh,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I usually say don't check Pinterest, but as far as cooperative games, that's probably a good place to start. Is Google or Pinterest. Just don't do it for the art stuff because constructivist is all about setting things out and having children choose that activity. And a lot of those Pinterest things are adult directed, and so you don't want to direct the play. And so, of course, in Reggio, I'd call that a provocation or an invitation because you're inviting the learning, you're provoking the learning. And so, yeah, you want to set something out and then walk away. And maybe you say, "Hey, I set out that new thing over there. You might like it," and you just let it go and you support whatever. They've always got a story, right? There's a backstory and a plan, and you just go with it. All right.
okay.
Anything else? A lot of times, if you're having challenging behaviors and you're doing all the stuff on the pyramid, it might actually be the engagement part. Like you might be the curriculum, you might need to rotate the toys or something. Like they might be tired of painting with the same red paint every day or whatever, right? And so often you just need to rotate the toys and then you have a fresh new classroom.
They were very much like, what?
Yeah.
Like, you're
Yeah.
making me
Yeah.
laugh.
Yeah, my toddlers, they'd be excited about like cars and trucks and stuff. And so then I turned the play kitchen part into a car wash place or a car fix it place. And then in the
Yeah.
spring, I change it into a flower shop and I would make the seed packets so you could shake them and they'd make noise because I was in the toddler room. The infants and toddlers, they need lots of sounds, right? And so then you have the little shovels and the little things, plants. And then so they go shopping and buy their plants and their seeds, and then we plant the seeds. And so you base it on whatever they're obsessed with at the moment. You put that in the play kitchen area. For bigger kids, a lot of times they're obsessed with pets and babies being born, and so your play kitchen is usually a veterinarian office, right? And you have all the X-ray stuff and the doctor stuff because they're afraid to go to their doctor, and so they play it with the animals to work out all that stuff. And so often for 3 and 4 year olds, it's the veterinary shop. Yeah,
Oh,
and then
right.
what you do is you get the overhead transparencies, and you do a black and white copy, and you print a black and white picture, and so then it looks like an X-ray. And they love that. They love it. Those 4 year olds looking inside the body. Oh, look, that's the puppy bones. Oh, they love it. And then they're all going to want to go in there. And then you say, as long as no one's fighting, just leave them alone. Leave them alone. Because when they're getting along and cooperating with a big group of people, that's hard. And so if they're
Yeah.
doing it, let them do it. That's some sophisticated play. Yeah. 4 year olds, they like restaurants. That's big with Reggio too, is they make the menu, they organize the menu, you interview cooks and restaurateurs in the neighborhood, and they go shopping, they buy all the stuff. And the kids at my school, they went and they bought salad stuff, and they made salads, and then they had someone be the take the orders, and they made the sandwich thing, and they did their creative spelling for salad. They drew the menu on the sandwich board. And so they took the orders, and it was so funny. One of them said, "Do you want croutons with that?" Because they went somewhere, and someone in their life they heard croutons, and so they wrote down croutons. And then when it was all done, they washed the dishes and cleaned up, and so they like closed the loop on that whole project. And so it was really they loved it. They loved the restaurant thing. Well, that should already be in your play area anyway, right? Especially Reggio, you should have like cloth, tablecloths, cloth napkins. Sometimes they have cloth every day, even. And
Yeah, we don't.
well, that's fine. A lot of schools they multitask their tables. That totally makes sense. Um, so usually you have a table for each primary group, and then a little tiny table in the play kitchen area. And so each primary group sits in a different part of the room to eat lunch. So one group is in the manipulative area at the manipulative table, and one group is at the art table in the art area. So you see what I mean? That you do double duty with the tables. Yeah. And so what was that? Oh, and then you get glasses that look like glass, but they're plastic to put on the table. In Reggio, there is a lot of glass normally,
Yeah, a lot of plastic.
like to hold the paint and just to display things. There's a lot of glass, and no one breaks it. They learn how to be respectful of things, and they just don't break it. And that's a whole new discussion. In my curriculum class, I talk about that a lot about just letting go and um, but yeah, that's challenging behavior, right? So I'll give you an example of challenging behavior and just your approach to how children learn. So when I had my family child care, I had the little dish set from IKEA, little tea set. And there was this one taught, she's like one, maybe 15 months old, and she would pick up those dishes and throw them in the sink. And she'd listen to it, and then she'd pick them up and throw them in the sink again because she's an auditory learner and she was learning through sounds. And so she wanted to hear that sound. And so I might think, well, that's a challenging behavior. She's throwing dishes. But I didn't. I just went, whoa, you like that sound, don't you? And she just kept throwing them and listening. And I think one broke. And they at the time they were like 750 for a set. And so that's just the cost of doing business, right? There's a certain
Right.
cost of running a childcare. And so you just let it go. Trying to
And that
think.
would that be considered
Well,
that
you
we're
have to.
encouraged?
What you really should be doing is watching them play and hear what they're saying during their play and what they're doing during free play. What are they talking about? What are they working on? If they say, "This is my horsey in the barn," you might want to come up with a barn in the play area, in the dramatic play area, with tractors and stuff. If they say, "This is my restaurant, here's some tacos," then you're going to come up with the restaurant theme and you're going to come up with the menus and give them things to make their own menus. So it's really should
Okay.
be based on what they're telling you they want to play. And then you build on it and it just gets out of control and they love it. And they don't fight cuz they're having so much fun. Yeah, and so
The outsider looking in, sort
and if you're not allowed to leave the center anymore, can you guys go interview people yet? Okay. And so if you can't interview people, that's when if you're going to do the restaurant thing, you go interview your school cook. So if you're going to do salad, so you go to the school cook and you say, "How do you make salad? What do you like to put in salads?" Or the children usually come up with the questions, right? And then they go interview the cook. So as a group, they decide what questions they want to ask the cook. And then you send a team, you send two or three to the cook to ask the questions. And then they come back and they report to the group. And you just keep a straight face. It's really hard because they're so excited. They'll say, "She told us this and this." And they just and you just play it straight. Like it's so serious that they got this information from the cook. Yeah, so if you can't leave, you just look at who you have access to and you use them as your experts. Maybe you have a family member who works in a restaurant who can talk about working in a restaurant. It's
I
so
love writing.
funny. It's so funny to watch it. Oh my gosh. They did a baby one where everybody had a baby and they had a daycare and they had to sign in their baby every day and they made a crib and baby food and the whole thing. And so they came and visited the baby room to get information about how to take care of babies, right? That was their research. Oh, it was so funny. And then they went and they made books. They made books to read and they came back and they read the books they made to the babies. And
That's
it,
a great idea.
and they never left the center and they did all this and parents came in as experts to show you how to feed a baby, how to change a baby's diaper. It was great. And then when they're making the cribs, the feet fell off the little shoe
Oh,
boxes, and so they had a crib recall.
that's great.
It was funny. And then they had the daycare was the loft, and so they take their babies up to the loft and sign them into the daycare because that's their life. That's their experience, right? They know about going to daycare, and so that was a couple of months, but it was a long project. But you see, they got and they did taste tests and then they did the math. They made a graph and which foods they liked better for the baby food taste test. And then they integrated the literacy with making the book for the baby. And so you have all those learning domains in the project. But like I said, you can't just pull it out like that. It has to be what they're obsessed with. Oh, well, there
And
you go.
coffee a lot. They like to
Yeah.
give me a lot of coffee.
Yes, there you
They like
go.
to give me a lot of
So maybe you want the coffee barista person to come and tell you why coffee tastes like it tastes. What kind of plant does coffee come from? Maybe plant a
that's a good
coffee bean
idea.
and see if it grows or not. Oh no, it didn't grow. We waited a week. What can we do? How can we solve our problem? Let's find
Pretty
out
much.
what coffee beans need to look like or be before we plant them. Oh, you mean we can't use a cooked coffee bean? We have to use a green one instead? Oh, that makes sense. But it has to be what they're interested in. I've seen teachers stay up all night on projects that the children don't want to do.
Oh Lord.
So I'm going to keep saying that. Listen to the children. So we're going off topic. And this thing is still recording. Let me stop this recording. Right there.